All right, hey, welcome to Edge of the Web Radio Live, episode 369. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks. Every week we bring you amazing guests to chat with in the digital marketing ecosystem. We unpack a key marketing topic for our digital marketing audience, whether or not you're in an agency, or if you're a freelancer, or if you're part of the marketing firm of a company. This show is for you, so check out everything over at edgeofthewebradio.com. Title sponsor of the show is Strategist, our parent company. We focus on agile digital marketing, so if you want to check out what we do over there, just Cite Strategist. You can have a look at the SEO side of things and all the other things that we do. But there's a commercial. We'll get done with this so we can get to our show. All right. We got in the booth, we've got Jacob Mann, the studio creative director. Sir. Yeah, why not? Throw you up there.
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Winners of Best Podcast from the Content Marketing Institute for 2017. Hear and see more at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
I follow instructions very, very well. So
I swear we went over this.
We did. You know what? We also did live for about 8 years, and getting back in the saddle evidently is a little bit challenging for me. So Jacob's in the booth. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Getting all this set up and rolling. I see that we've got the live rolling over here, so now I can relax and just let you guys do all the hard work.
All right, so we want to make sure we reach out to our live audience as well. Jump into this stream because we certainly want to have a banter and conversation about what we're talking about today. It's pretty darn special and pretty darn striking, actually. So we wanted to get a couple great resources to talk through these challenges on Google Ads. Want to let you know who's coming up on the show here soon. We're going to be talking to Paul Shapiro, Will Critchlow, as well as Dixon Jones in the upcoming shows. But you also want to look at some of the shows that we've just put out there with Tim Schmoyer, John Mueller, Gary Each, and Michael King. So have a look at what we've done just recently. We're really proud of these interviews. It's been fantastic getting connection with some of these top-level digital marketers. All right, so set your reminders for our YouTube videos whenever they go, and make sure that you join us on your favorite podcast platform or on iTunes, Player FM, Spotify, Google Play, all the different spaces. Check out all the news shows as well. But for this show, we're actually going live with interview directly because this is a pretty hot topic, and we wanted to pull together some of the best resources to talk through what the heck is going on with Google Ads. So we have Kirk Williams and Sam Tomlinson on the line. How you doing, guys? They're there.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Well, they look unkerfuffled. I mean, they look quite calm right now.
I think they're making me stressed out that I didn't unmute them like I promised. And they were just like, they had a plan before this started. Like when Aaron cuts to us, don't say anything for the first few seconds.
Exactly. I really think that should be the rule of thumb for our guests. Hey, Kirk has been on the show before, and we certainly have met Sam out at SMX this past year and had a great interview with him regarding the partner program on AdWords. And we certainly want to dive into that down the road in this interview, but we wanted to have this show right here because there's a hot topic that we wanted to bring to our audience. But first and foremost, Kirk, just want to introduce Kirk. Kirk is the owner of ZATO, his Paid Search PPC micro agency of experts, and they've been working in the digital marketing agency since 2009. He's also been named one of the top 25 most influential PPCers in the world by PPC Hero in the last 3 years, and he's written a number of different articles in different industries regarding PPC. And Sam Tomlinson, the new and improved Sam Tomlinson right here, Vice President of Digital Strategy and Digital Analytics at Warschawski. And he's actually overseeing client accounts and is responsible for both strategic direction and executive execution on all integrated digital marketing and digital analytics initiatives. So there's the official bios, gentlemen, but how did you guys know each other, right? That's safe to say.
Twitter.
Met,
yeah.
Right? Twitter?
All of my friends are Twitter friends. Yeah, no, we met,
yeah, like Twitter,
I think
then,
officially at SMX, I think, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we were wandering around San Jose. Yeah, that one.
we were eating. I'm sure we were eating something. If I'm involved, there's usually eating involved.
And oddly enough, I tried to track you down, Kirk, and all of a sudden Kirk disappears. He's like he like jets out of the building. What the heck was that?
Yeah, I wasn't feeling very well that trip. Yeah, a little bit of a rough thing. So, and then the
Yeah,
pandemic.
you shouldn't tell people you weren't feeling well in early March.
Late February. It's fine.
Did you catch that news? Obviously, whenever COVID went through, and one of the first alerts was some people out in San Jose. That was that oh crap moment. All right, are we in for it from just that visit? That was tough, and obviously the world has changed so much in the digital space and responding to COVID. But we are actually oriented to be able to execute remotely, execute the same work that we have been doing. So give me a little bit of your backstories, guys, so our audience knows you a little bit better. Kirk first.
Yeah, definitely. So backstory in terms of overall or specifically with the search terms topic?
Let's talk about your history inside of Google Ads, especially.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So been running ZATO for, I think it's about 9 years or so. Been in paid search a little over a decade now. Mm-hmm. And my focus is paid search, is Google Ads. So that's what our agency does as well. And I say that because I was talking with some other people actually on this search terms thing. But I have a particular love for this industry and for paid search. It's something I fell into, didn't know I was going to fall into it, and just one of those things where it clicks. And so in that way, and we were actually joking about this, in that way, there's actually this emotional attachment to paid search that I admit comes through, but especially not just paid search, it's the keyword. So there is something about a keyword that I think a lot of people who do paid search advertising can resonate with. And that's that it is, in my opinion, one of the most highly targeted marketing entities there has ever been, because it is an individual person in a timely way at the exact moment that they want to have information. You have the ability to connect with that person, a single person, right? It's someone telling you, communicating like their heart at that moment, and you can market to that, right? So there's this deep connection with an individual that I fell in love with. And so that's one of the things with more and more changes like this, where I see Google making shifts purposefully, continually away from that and more towards more of a social audience type thing. And I do believe that's because of automation and grouped grouped averages and all that. They get to do more with their machines and stuff like that. But I see that as, in some ways, frankly, them leaving the heart of what has always been the strength of that sort of marketing. So I'm already on my soapbox, apparently.
Yeah. It's very granular.
It works into my history. So it kind of works into my history. And I think that's sometimes for some of us that have been doing this a while, where we see that and we're like, it's not just that they're changing it and we're grumpy because we're like, we don't like change. They're like, in my opinion, at times changing the entity of what is the power of paid search. So,
all right, well,
that answers it.
Match that, Sam. Where's your passion leave inside of Google AdWords?
All right, so yeah, Kirk just beats me to every single punch. This is great. This is good. So I've been in paid search for about 6 years now. My background before that's in finance. So I come at this from a very numbers-driven perspective. I come at it from a financial perspective. And I've taken that same approach to marketing. It's all numbers. It's all what you're adding up. It's just, instead of adding up something on a deal, you're adding up campaign stuff, which is fun. And I mean, that's kind of my passion for paid search, comes from the quantitative side of it, and being able to, like Kirk says, understand what's actually driving outcomes for businesses and go a little bit deeper and get that granularity of data. That's where the power is. That's where the advantage is. That's where you win. You don't win by staying at the top. You win by getting into the detail. And as you remove that detail, you remove the ability for, in my opinion, skill to determine winners and losers. And now you have machines determining winners and losers. And that's not useful because they're not very good at it. So
no. So all right, so there's the absolutely. So the good balanced approach here is that you're finding search intent, and you'll be able to meet that audience, and you can also go down to the granular level to be able to steer the campaign, to be able to avoid certain pitfalls. There's a lot of additional value in understanding the transparency of keywords, but let's back up and actually talk about what the announcement was. So it's September 2nd. Google actually made an announcement in accounts starting in September. Search queries without significant, quote unquote, amount of data will no longer show in query reports. And it's changes to the search term report. They said that we're updating the search term report to only include terms that were searched by a significant number of users. As a result, you may see fewer terms in your report going forward. And that's Google's statement. There's a lot of chatter about this, obviously. So for those that don't understand this report, basically, this is how you steer a campaign to be able to see what keywords that you're paying for. You're paying for all of them, but what you don't want to pay for to continually improve the campaign by and large. So with this, lay it on me. What are you seeing from this particular proclamation coming from Google? I mean, there's a lot of people talking, but this goes to the heart of both of what you just said, from an understanding of the intent, but also from a financial standpoint. So, Kirk, what's your take on this announcement?
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts, and I don't want to steal all of Sam's thunder. So here's kind of my thinking. So everything that Google does has, in my opinion, has something to do with them being terrified of getting sued. They're a business, so it also has something to do with them wanting to make money, right? And that's not in itself a bad thing. And I think that those two things are a crucial part of decisions with various motivations, things like that. So at some point we can look at this and really try to figure out the motivation. I do think that those two things, drive that. So you look at a change like this and say, what does it have to do with those two things? Well, first of all, I actually don't completely dismiss the privacy claims like I know some advertisers are. And again, in some ways we're getting to we don't quite know all the information. So it is what it is. I do think that there are cases where, again, back to my love of the keyword and the power of it, I actually do think there are cases where Google would be open to potential open to litigation because of some ultra specific sort of a search from an small geography, whatever. I mean, I can envision a world where like someone sues them over that. Let's put it that way. And because of that, I think in some almost maybe a cold way, they look at that and they're like, we hate getting sued. We're sick of it. Even when we do get sued by like the EU, it's just like a slap in the hand, right? But for the most part, I think probably there's some level of that involved here. And so they're just saying, hey, look at that. We need to be careful of that. I think then things start to get off the rail quite fast. And this goes into a broader discussion, and that is in terms of how does Google see their partners. So by that I mean their advertisers, the people paying them money. So either third-party agencies assisting with that or the actual brands, all of that. And I think that my actual biggest issue with this is not that they've decided there might be some level of privacy concern we have, but I think it is an increased concern that they clearly do not see their advertising partners as partners. And I think that comes through in communication like this, using the word significant and then chopping, shutting off the flow of insight into spend rather than communicating well and in kind of an honest and transparent way with partners. I think is telling, communicates how they see that partnership, i.e. not a partnership. And I think there's a lot of other stuff to unpack, and I'll shut up and let Sam give a shot at it as well. But I think that those are some of the things initially that hit for me with this announcement, and that is it's just a continued push by Google to get more more automation, even if it has something to do with privacy. And clearly, there's not much respect for the people paying them all of this money.
Right. So, Sam, what's your take on this data privacy that they cited? And take us to town. What's going on there, from your perspective?
Oh, goody. It's time for me to get in trouble with the privacy advocates. I love doing that. So I think privacy might be like consideration 792A in the list of things they care about. And
Right.
1 through 791Z are profit, money, kicking out advertisers, acting like a monarch, acting like a monopoly, and really pushing, like Kirk said, their automation. I mean, I don't look at any one announcement or any one change that Google makes in isolation. And I'm looking at the pattern. And this pattern has been very evident for the last couple of years. And, it starts with changes to matching, right? All of a sudden now we're doing close variants. And then we expand close variants. And then we expand close variants so far that the intent gets lost, right? Then we start to go into these optimization scores. We start to overlay audiences. We start to, go into auto applying campaign recommendations, right? Every one of these changes is pushing you inexorably from a situation where you have manual control to one where Google is saying, you're bad at that, even if you're not, and we're better at that, and they usually aren't, but we want you to let us run with it. And we want you to basically just give us, you don't even have to give us copy anymore, right? We have DSAs, we have RSAs. You can put in your website and Google will auto pull text from that and use that to populate ads and run them for keywords on your behalf without you ever doing anything. And the intent of that, I guess, is admirable in the sense that it's, we're going to democratize search so that anybody can play. But the result of that is, well, a disaster, because you have no control over what's happening. And Google doesn't understand the nuances of business. Google doesn't understand the nuances of, your regulatory considerations, legal considerations. They don't understand the differences in customer intent as well as they think they do, especially on the paid side. So you end up in this situation where what Google is trying to do, let's be real, is three things. They've realized, let's step back and say, Google has realized that paid search in the United States is a saturated market. It is not getting that much larger. Everybody that can be connected has been connected. Everybody that can be connected on mobile has been connected on mobile. Penetration is like 90-something%. It's not getting bigger. And the population is not getting bigger. So if you're Google and you have Wall Street analysts saying you need to beat earnings, you need to meet earnings at the very least,
right?
You're left in this situation saying, can't get more customers, okay, problem. Can't get more market share, okay, problem. So what can I do? And your two answers are pretty much either A, find new ways or new channels to advertise that I can sell to advertisers, or B, push more advertisers into the same auction so I can drive the price up. Now I have a flat world with rising CPCs again. Yay. That makes shareholders happy. That makes Wall Street happy. That makes advertisers mad, but who cares? Because to Kirk's point, they don't think of you as partners. They think of you as wallets, kind of like a teenager thinks of their parents. They're not there for like value. They're there for money. That's probably a little sassy and probably not very nice to teenagers, but sorry, teenagers. We've all been there, right?
So basically, you're comparing Google ads. You're comparing Google ads to a teenager.
Yeah, to a petulant teenager.
Robbing their parents,
and they want autonomy. Yeah, and they don't feel a sense of responsibility towards them. They don't feel a sense of obligation. They want to do whatever they want. They don't want to be questioned about it. And if you do question, they throw a temper tantrum.
Perfect.
Sounds fair?
Sounds wonderful, and I want to trust the keys to my car with my teenager, and that's the biggest problem, is that more and more our control is being pulled away from us in our steerage to the degree of how much are we potentially losing in visibility? I mean, the key concept of significant, right? It's a subjective concept. There's no threshold defined of how many terms you're not going to see. And there were some calculations done by a number of people in Twitter of how much they're looking at. In one article over at Seer Interactive, they're looking at 28% loss of visibility on what they're spending on keywords that they'll no longer see anymore. Have you heard any of those numbers?
Yeah, I mean, on our client accounts, I think we've seen anywhere from 10% up to about 85% for a small business that's got like low search volume.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable, and that's steerage. But you paid for those terms.
Correct. You paid for what you think is those terms. See, that's where I think you have to look at the thing in totality, right? You've paid for keywords, but Google matches keywords in ways that are incredibly inconsistent and incredibly unreliable. So it's not like they can even come back to you and say, oh, no, you paid for an exact match term. Of course, we only match this exact term. No, like, I have a dental client. You bid on tooth whitener or teeth whitening. Sorry, I keep getting these always mixed up. It's teeth whitening is the actual process. Mm-hmm. Tooth whitener is the thing you buy at Wegmans with the little, you put in the teeth and you stick it on and yay, smiles happy, right? But Google substitutes those two things interchangeably, even with exact match. They're not the same thing.
Nope.
I have an accounting firm. You bid on CPA assurance, and then they throw you for CPA audit. Audit and assurance are not the same thing. They're very different processes. They're very different skill sets. And you're not getting, it's not a one-for-one. So I think that's where the real problem comes in, is that you are changing what somebody is buying and not telling them and still charging them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Would not fly anywhere else.
No, like, not in any other world.
Car repair shop and you're like, if you went to, Wegmans and you were like, hey guys, I would really like to buy this Angus steak right here, this beautiful piece of, or even better, like A5 Wagyu, like this delicious thing. And Wegmans, like, we substituted that out with skirt steak. You'd be real unhappy.
Okay, you completely connected with me there.
We're going to charge you for the A5, but we're going to give you skirt steak or top round sirloin. Delicious.
You're killing me, Smalls. Stop it. All right. So Greg Finn jumped into the fray here early on. He said, incredible that a Google spokesperson could make this statement with a straight face. If Google Ads really cared about their standards of privacy and protections around user data, you'd remove all keyword data like the not provided hit. This is solely a money grab PPC chat channel. So, I mean, literally, and Greg's been a fervent proponent on transparency. Obviously, you both know Greg. So he's calling it what it is, a money grab. Would you concur there to a greater or lesser degree?
Kirk can go first on this one.
Yeah, well,
not putting words in your mouth whatsoever.
Yeah. So I do try to be careful. Just I don't know the motivations of individuals in certain organizations, right? And that's not just to try to get out of something. I don't. But sometimes it's more like the result, like what is the resultant action from those decisions, right? Mm-hmm. And I look at stuff like that, and what we've talked about, Sam's thing about the teenager and the parent is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And there's even there's even a greater alarm that comes to me with this whole thing, which we all know, is that it's not even simply the one obfuscating the data, the one hiding the data, is not simply some third-party entity who believes they have a great machine learning tool that they think is going to work great.
Right.
It is the one being paid that money. So when you take an entity who hides information, and yes, we're seeing about that same thing, 25 to 30% now of our spend as of September is just hidden search terms. So you take that and you have someone say, hey, you're paying me money and I've just decided I'm not going to basically tell you at all what that 25% is, right? Of the money you're paying me. I think that especially is where we have crossed a line, I think. To Greg's point, I actually happen to agree with that as well. Hey, if we're going to call this a privacy play, but you're still going to show it to paid users, like privacy doesn't magically change just because someone pays for it. In fact, that's kind of the whole point of privacy, right? Is that someone
Right.
can't buy your data. So again, agreed. I think there's some logic there that I'm not seeing as well with Greg in that play of not providing the SEO but providing the PPC and calling it a privacy thing. But I think that's a crucial thing. And so for me, what I look at that is, and I actually wrote an article about this. So my brain has been in smart shopping for the last year. And smart shopping doesn't impact as many people just because there's not as many e-commerce advertisers, and even then there's not as many people who do smart shopping. But smart shopping is a little bit of a precursor to this discussion, which is basically Google going in and taking away all information that you would have in terms of data, right? Trust us, we'll do the thing, we'll get you a return, right? And one of the reasons, so I've written quite a bit about that. I've talked to a number of different Googlers on that. And I think that it's a similar tie, which would be this idea of this big conversation, which I think is really where more and more this sort of thing is coming to a head. And I truly think we're at the point where I don't know if much is going to be figured out outside of courts at this point, either some sort of federal court or some sort of civil lawsuit. And that is in some ways like, what data, and I wrote an article about this, by the way, on Search Engine Journal. What data do we have rights to? Because even Google, in a policy page that I linked to, and I screenshot it just in case they change it, even Google will say things like to their third-party service providers like us agencies, they require us to provide the necessary data. You can go read it. I forget the exact language, but it has something to do with the necessary data for them to do their business well, or whatever the language is. So even they understand that data has some sort of power. And I think more and more the discussion is going to be around what is that? What is that data? What has some sort of rights to it? And then and in that way, then how does that impact our ability to control that and see that? Because a Google engineer who thinks, hey, and I've been told this, all right, this is not conjecture. I have been told by Google multiple times, the reason why we hide stuff in smart shopping is because we know that users are going to get in and they're not going to trust the system, and they're going to make changes too quickly, and they're not going to give the system the right thing. And so we don't want them to make the changes and mess up the system. So there is, and again, that's where I go look at motivation, because I'm like, I truly, the people I talk to, I truly don't think that, at least for them personally, they have this evil money grabbing idea. I just think they're very, very wrong, because what they're doing is back to the whole partnership thing. Partnerships have friction. Partnerships sometimes don't work as smoothly as they can, but in some ways that's because of a very necessary, just kind of a checks and balances, right?
It's the process. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, to all that to say that you look at all that and say, at some point, a Google engineer might believe that a completely closed system would do what he wants it to do. That's not the entity of the world we live in. The advertisers who are handing their money over, there is some sort of rights to that. There is some sort of that. And to just make a change where all of a sudden you say, hey, by the way, this just happened. You just lost 25% of this data that you used, and that you're still paying for. Hey, that restaurant bill that was itemized out, we blocked out 25% of that, so you literally don't even know what you're paying for. Major concerns there.
It doesn't apply in any other world. And it sounds very Orwellian, to be honest with you. It sounds very much like we can't be trusted with our own self-will. So we're just going to take that away from you because we know better. So that's absolutely in your lane, Sam. Sam, give us that perspective, or share with us that next level of what Kirk's talking about. Is you're seeing this in multiple fronts. This is just the most recent change, but it is, just like you said, right in the lane of all the other changes, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I think Kirk is right to think that, obviously we can't know exactly what people are saying, but I think if you look at Google as a corporation, and corporations are people here in the US, so we can talk about them. And let's, it's a cash grab. It has to be. Because if you actually look at their financial statements, they need, and you look at their earnings expectations, where does the money come from? Their other bets don't exist. Amazon, to Kirk's point on Twitter, has AWS. That's a huge moneymaker, right? Microsoft has Microsoft Cloud Services. They have their legacy technology business. Google doesn't. Google's core business is their only, we'll call it sustainable, viable, large cap business. That is search and just some of their online advertising, right? That's their business. And search is incredibly powerful. But, the only reason you would make these changes, if I was going to put on my most benevolent white hat and say, all right, let's be charitable, I would say it goes back to Kirk's point that Google thinks that they can make better decisions. And if you truly, truly believe that, I'm a believer in the open market. Put it out there and let advertisers use it. And when they see they get better results, they will continue to use it. But you're not giving them that choice.
Right.
You're effectively co-opting the market for your own gain. And at that point, it's not a free market anymore. So if you truly believe you have a better mousetrap, then put it into the world and let people pick the mousetrap. But if your mousetrap sucks, don't make us use it.
So give us a choice.
And
allow us to opt out of this.
Let's be real.
Well, we don't know that.
We know that their automated tools aren't good. We know that a lot of the campaign optimization recommendations are hot trash. We know that their ability to parse keyword intent, especially in complex queries, is still, somewhere on the level of a fourth grader. And we know that a lot of when you let DSAs run wild, for instance, the amount of garbage you can get in like 2 days, it rivals a city in trash generation. But
you're still paying for it too.
Correct. So I'm saying, if you have a better tool, then let us use it. But if your whole goal, I think this also feeds into the desire for Google to force advertisers to subsidize their R&D. That's what this comes down to. Because at the end of the day, you have a bunch of ML algos that you're trying to train. And to do that, you need data sets. And the easiest way to get data sets on paid search is to make everybody participate and then see what happens.
So you say we've been...
You have smart advertisers pulling out, then all of a sudden you're limiting your ML sets, and now your algorithms take longer to develop, so now you're mad. So now what you're basically doing is saying, no, everybody's getting into this pool, and everybody's going to subsidize us, and we're going to train our data sets, and they're going to be good, we hope.
Over time.
Thanks for the money.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
That's even worse.
That's...
So what you're saying, to just to paraphrase,
the less charitable one is just a monopoly with rent-seeking behavior.
Just to paraphrase, you're saying that in order to train the marketing automation, the machine learning, they're going to take 28% of our data and earn money to be able to train the understanding of intent and be able to create a better and better automation so we can take more of your steerage away from you over time.
Yeah, that's basically the plan. It seems like, because if you have smart advertisers who are using things like engrams, who are using things, like the search terms report, to add in negatives and to exclude certain queries that Google would otherwise serve for, they're saying, well, we're not getting data on these queries, and long tail queries make up, 67% of search? 68% of search? So, that's in effect what you're excluding here, right? Because paid search really does focus on head and kind of fat, kind of like that chunky middle term, if you want to, right? That's where paid search lives, but it's a relatively small part of overall search. So we need to get data on this long tail, which actually makes up the bulk of search. So what do? We cut it out of everybody's campaign, and then we start putting all of that data in so that we can better understand intent. But yes, it's only 28, 30, up to maybe 50, 60 for most advertisers % of terms, but it's not consistent, right? The overlap is not uniform. So you're really trying to get every advertiser into the pool for those so that you can start to understand those longer term, more complex queries, and thereby be more relevant, be better, get more
But
customers.
but to that point, the
It's
long
not a
term and
linear thing.
no, it's not. And to the point, the long tail, more complex phrases give us much more understanding of intent, right? And also gives us discovery of not only additional key phrases and concepts, but also works into SEO. I mean, if you're a smart advertiser, you're running continual experiments to be able to find some great content that you could write content about that you don't want to pay for. Now, all of a sudden, 30% of our content, which is long tail, much more niche, much more highly converting, by the way, right? That's gone from us. We can't use that inside of any other tactic. So all of the recon that we can get from seeing all the terms is now we're now being cut out of some of the most valuable for SEO.
Right, and it's a constantly shifting target too. It's not like, oh, okay, we're only going to hit, if it's 3 clicks per week, for argument's sake, that's significant. I mean, which for some businesses, like I have clients where super competitive terms, super niche terms, 3 a week is significant because you get 3 clicks, we convert 30% of those into lead forms, and we convert about 30% of lead forms into customers, and those customers are 5-6 figure customers. So that is a significant data point, right? Go on. No idea.
You're using significant in a whole different manner than what they're using as significant.
And there's no uniform and I think that's the problem, is that you're applying a uniform policy to a very, very diverse group of advertisers. You're treating them all the same, which is discriminatory, honestly, towards advertisers that rely on these complex queries. Same thing for law firms. Like they're getting pummeled because a lot of these are really complex queries. Like no one searches like personal injury attorney. It's like a $300 CPC in some markets. Like you talk about your specific injury. You talk about, this type of incident, cancer misdiagnosis. We go to, medical malpractice, complex malpractice. Right. These are really niche terms where there's not a lot of volume, but there's a lot of intent, to Kirk's point. That's the whole point of paid search. It's why you invest in it. And
so
and as you've said, Aaron,
go ahead.
Yeah, as you've said, Aaron, utilizing it for SEO, we've utilized that for clients in a business strategic direction. We've utilized learnings from our Ngram. Hey, like we're seeing a lot of people clicking on this in our shopping ads. And, a lot of people are searching for it, and actually look at the ROAS, see potential for shifting the way that you're presenting your product offer. There actually could be a way that we've never even thought of an entire audience, right? And I think that is, again, kind of in line with what we've been seeing Google making the changes. Again, like I would point to smart shopping because in my opinion, it is one of the most egregious in that you have engineers who are very intelligent people, who are very good at what they do in terms of building machines who take certain inputs and connect that with other inputs and make a decision based upon those inputs. Right. And they are driving these large decisions that are impacting us advertisers and then those businesses as well in ways that do not include kind of, in my opinion, a thought over kind of the whole marketing mix, the way that we're using all of this information. Because as I've had conversations with Googlers who just don't understand why do you need the search terms in smart shopping? I've been asked multiple times, things like that. There's just, and that's some of that concern that I have in that big picture way of Google advertisers, partners, and yet it's not like that. It's Google kind of continues to see themselves as the kind of the parent. We were joking about this, the doctor who says, sorry, if you don't like this medicine, you got to eat the medicine, right? And kind of forcing us to eat the medicine, regardless of whether we like that. That's how they see the world. Well, it's just not the case, right?
It's not. But I actually keep on going. Sorry.
No, yeah, and so that's just kind of a communication. And at some point, I'm not sure how to continue to try to help think through those type of things. Like, hey, when we look at those things in our clients, at least the good advertisers, sure, there are bad advertisers and agencies. Yep, there are, right? But at least the good ones, we are taking that information, using it in aggregated ways, in all of these ways to help grow a business, to help grow a brand, not just simply quick get that last track, that tracked ROAS, which by the way, your engineering system can do it just slightly better. And so sure, in that one campaign, let's do that. Good marketers are doing much more than that.
Mhm.
And I think there's just this disconnect there, which has fed into decisions. And I see kind of this path pushing more and more towards that machine learning, get the humans out of the way. And I think that's why it's a concern.
You realize you just referenced Skynet, right? Just get the humans out of the way. I mean, honestly, are we dealing with poachers, not partners at this point in time? They're poaching our data that we're paying for.
But like, it's not going to stop there, right? Like, you have campaign optimization scores, and what do you think that's for? It's not to help agencies, it's to kick them out, right? Like, Google's trying to figure out, how do I replace the agency? Then you look at things like LSAs. What is that? That's a play to get small business advertisers to work directly with Google.
Right.
That is not anything more or anything less than that.
And we also recognize. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking you also have these quick setup campaigns, right? Like Kirk was saying, you add in your website, you add in a logo, and poof, we're done. But that's not a campaign. It sucks, and the results are garbage. But like, you're basically using the drug dealer mentality for these advertisers. You're saying you're getting them in with a cheap thing, you're making it easy, and Google has enough data, and they're good enough that they can get you a couple quick leads in the door. You're hooked, and now all of a sudden,
wow,
2 months later, 3 months later, you spent $4, $5, $6, $7, $10,000, and what have you gotten? I mean, we just had a guy in here who's a local services business. He's got like 4 or 5 locations, whatever. He was in this very same little mousetrap. He got hooked in. All of a sudden, Google's into his business, and it's, he's out $10,000, $15,000. Didn't get a lead in 2 months, but he couldn't change anything. Google's running everything. He has no idea what he's doing. And he's coming to me saying, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "Well, this is all bad."
Yeah, and there's nobody answerable to that. There's no more.
I think a crucial. Oh, sorry.
It's okay, man. Go ahead.
I think a crucial part of what you had said, Sam, but I think of this conversation too is, let's just say Google engineers were listening and they heard you say that, Sam, what you said, and they'd say, okay, well, first of all, some of our maybe smart campaigns, some smart shopping campaigns do well. Okay, they're not all garbage, right? And so they hear that, and maybe even hear it in a challenge, like, okay, we got to make this better, right? So again, there's still this focus on, we say, okay, those maybe sometimes those smart campaigns or whatever, they're garbage, whatever. So they think, how can we make that better? And I guess what I'm trying to come in and say is, I don't think it's just about making that better. I think it's about fully seeing that there are two important entities in this relationship. The advertisers, so agencies, in-house brands, I don't care. The ones paying Google billions of dollars, and then Google, who gets that billions of dollars. And there's got to be a way where those two work together. That's not simply Google standing on high and handing down decisions and continuing to strip away spend reports, things like that, without clear communication, without transparency, making pushes to try to shift agencies out, all of that. So I don't think it's just a matter of improving their algorithms. I think it's even a bigger conversation of what is that relationship? What data do we have the right to? Mm-hmm. What do at times they need to do? Like, every relationship has friction. There might be ways that they think, hey, this smart shopping is best if you literally cannot touch it at all. And here's where it gets a little interesting, because there might be a level where in a 2 + 2 = 4 on math on paper, not considering brand building or any of that stuff, there might be a level where they're even right, especially as machine learning grows. But that's actually not always best for everyone involved. And when they're working with all of these humans who are paying them billions of dollars, there's some friction that's naturally going to come in there. And that's okay. That's part of business. That's part of doing business. But I think for me personally, kind of this Google standing on high, listening to the engineers saying we need more machine learning automation, which means we need to control more and make these decisions, and them coming in and saying, hey, you literally have no say, literally doesn't matter what you see or don't see. We're continuing to make these decisions. I think that's got to stop.
Would it be a different
for the good of all of us?
Absolutely. Would it be a different story if they didn't charge us for that 28% that was not significant? Would you have a different take on that if we weren't actually throwing the money in there and if we weren't actually charged?
Yeah.
I mean, we still want to see that content, but at least it'd be an ethical change, right?
Right. I think it's an ethical change,
think I'd
but
agree
it's
with
also
that,
or if you just gave us the option to opt in. Like if
There it
you
is.
want to get into these dark queries, cool, you can. If you
Right.
don't, if you need to see all your data, if you want transparency, cool, we don't. But I think the fact that that option is not there is a strong signal as to the intent of the program, which is to force everyone in, which is to force competition, which is to force up CPCs, which is to grow CPCs in a saturated market.
Right.
It's pretty linear. It's just roundabout. But you have like 19 extra steps.
And blanketed with
Kirk's right.
no blanketed
Sorry, I think
with
Kirk's right about
no
the
it's
marketing.
yeah, absolutely. And it's blanketed, but it's obfuscated. It's obfuscated with citing security challenges, and it's disingenuous, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's why I think it's like 792A. Like there's 1 through 791Z of reasons they did it that aren't that. But I mean, I think somebody could like rationalize themselves into that being somewhat logically coherent. I just don't think it's a major concern. And I don't think Google cares at all about privacy. And any, overtures to the effect that they do is, like Kirk said, it's a legal CYA. It's not a, obligation or some sort of like deep sense of duty or commitment to the idea of privacy. It's a convenient holding cell for your true intent. It's your Trojan horse. So,
Well, and when I say they're concerned about privacy, that's me not I don't know the intentions of their hearts. I don't know if they actually are concerned or not about privacy. And so maybe this is a good clarification point. I do think there is proof as you talk to people who, have worked with or in Google, or as well as you watch the way that they act. I do think there is a significant intentional decision making that they have of avoiding litigation. I think that especially. So when I say, hey, there could be a privacy aspect, I'm not saying this or that of like they really deeply care about user privacy. I don't know that. I am saying I think there's a lot of proof that they deeply care about not getting sued. And so that I think is where, hey, if there's a potential for that,
Right.
I can see them wanting to make that decision at some point. But where does that fall? It should be communicated better. It certainly shouldn't be in a significant way. It certainly shouldn't be done in a way where advertisers, I mean, you look at an advertiser spending $100 million a year, and I think if my math is correct, like $27 million could just be disappearing according to our, that is a huge amount of money. Again, I think we're rapidly approaching a time where some brand finally looks at it and they're like, dang, we could pay lawyers a lot less than that to try to get some of that back.
Absolutely. So you're gonna see the moving away from this platform, possibly. I mean, this method doesn't work in any other level of the world. Microsoft, right? Bing.
I mean, it's rent seeking, right?
But it's not a monopoly.
Google knows. Yeah. Like Google knows they own what, 90% of search?
Right.
Google owns 92% of search. Microsoft has like a nice 8%. And then there's like Yahoo and Yandex with like a DuckDuckGo with like a whopping like 0.5%. Congratulations.
Yeah, there's just nothing there.
Google knows. I mean,
if it's not a monopoly where they can say, hey, we're just going to like take away 25% of your, data and you keep paying us and you can't go anywhere. Like if that's not a monopoly, where else can that happen?
I was gonna say, I mean, Andrew Carnegie owned what, like 58% of the railroads, and that was deemed to be a monopoly. Like back in the day?
I think we just got mugged, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's what just happened.
It's awful. Right? But I mean, you look at it, I mean, the one thing I can think of, and if I'm Google and I'm thinking, okay, I have a monopoly, I have a moat, I want to build it. The one way to build a moat, and I think the last great moat that you're going to have is data. that is a moat. That's something that no one else can get. And I think this is Google starting to move towards them hoarding hoarding a large percentage of data and using, it's not algorithms, it's not talent, it's not technology platforms anymore as your moats. It's now data is the moat. The water itself is the moat. It's not the structure that you built with it, it's the actual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Google, this is a move where now advertisers don't have as much. It's not available via the API anymore. So it almost seems like they're looking at a world and saying, well, we have all this data, we can make the algorithms better, and we can continue to get our competitive advantage.
And please subsidize our growth there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And please pay for that. Thank you.
All right.
You.
I got a lot of imagery popping up in my head, and none of it's good. It looks like we just got robbed here, and there's a lot of ramifications there, and the PPC world is on its ear. Marketing O'Clock actually did gin up a opt-in. Basically a petition to Google to allow advertisers the ability to opt out of this non-significant search term in Google Ads issue here. And they go through and they isolate some key factors that are not acceptable. We need to know exactly what we're paying for. As Google customers, we request full visibility on what terms are that we're advertising on. And no data, no impressions, no clicks. If we cannot see what a search term is, we do not want to appear for the query, receive that traffic, or pay for that click. So if we can't see data, we shouldn't pay for it. And as a customer of Google, we should have access to all of our data. That data is ours, not yours. That's the argument right here, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good petition. I think it's a smart decision, and I think it's an easy opportunity for Google to say, yeah, we were serious about being a partner, but I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath.
Well, we're trying to put the vector on ethos, ethics in business, and making sure that marketers have a say. The marketers are the stewards of their consumers or their customers' property, their clients' property. And if you're marginalizing the stewards, then it's a free for all, because the clients aren't going to be able to steer nearly as well as the PPCers that are in this audience, and robbing of the long tail data, which is incredibly valuable. Although Google's not saying it is, it's unconscionable, and we need to push back on that. So get the word out about this. We certainly want to make sure that we ring the clarion bell here, because this is maybe a line too far. Greg, would you say so?
Yeah, I mean, I do think no, that's right. I thought, is he tweeting at Greg?
I was like, yeah, I know.
Greg Finn. Hey, yeah, no,
I'm just projecting. Cool, I'm just projecting Greg and the edge symbol.
I think I'm Greg. I'll take it.
Sorry, Kirk.
Yeah, no, and I think that goes back to what I was noting about. I think there's going to be the great data debate. I think is actually still coming, which I think is probably rights. I think at some point, some major court in the land is going to be talking about rights, data rights. Like what rights do we have when we pay someone like Facebook, Google? What is that? Because until we know that, they can determine what that is, and we can get upset at it. But as we've been joking about, but not really joking, what else are we going to do? I'd love to shift more spend to Microsoft. At this point, pretty much that I can think of for all of our clients, we're maxing that out. So that's just a matter of needing more people on it, right? And so at some point, we're a little bit at their mercy there. And so what data do we have rights to, as in we paid you, we need this for our business? And here's where it gets really messy and ugly. And again, back to my point of that's the world and that's fine, which means more data probably is better, is different businesses find value in different data points. That's perfectly okay. That's great. That's part of it, right? So at the very least, the more data that's available, most likely the better. But if you say, is this data something that 100% we have rights to, all that sort of thing? I'm not a judge, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to say yes or no, but I am going to say, at the very least, what are you communicating when you say, hey, you had access to this data, it accounts for a quarter of your spend, Now we've decided that you're not going to have access to that data. Please keep paying that, even if you use that or not, to help make your campaigns better. I think what happened in September absolutely was across the line in that regard.
All right. So, final thoughts, Sam. You want to prognosticate on what's going to come next?
Oh, goody. I mean, I think you're going to see more of the same, right? Like, they like this. They've gotten away with every single thing so far. So I don't think it's reasonable to expect Google to change. I think you're going to see increasing pushes to, remove the ability of keywords to target. I think you're going to see that keywords become, basically depreciated into non-relevance because they're going to be so broad. You'll move keywords to key themes and Google will figure out the keywords. I think you're going to see the next change. I mean, if I were Google and I'm following this path, the next change is probably a significant limit to negative keywords. That's probably the next thing because marketers have responded to the current set of changes with increasing prioritization and increasing complexity of negative keyword strategies. So the next logical step there is to make those less useful. And then I think you're going to see Google starting to push audiences and key themes and basically saying, you know what, you don't need to worry exactly about what somebody's typing into the keyword. Let us handle that. What you need to just tell us is kind of what's the general gist and who are the general folk, and we'll take it from there. Don't you worry. And I mean, I think that's where you go. And then you're going to see increasing automation, right? You're going to see, I would imagine at some point, manual CPC bidding will go away and be replaced entirely by enhanced CPC. That's likely to happen. You're probably going to start losing control over search partners because why not? And it's going to go into a world where Google starts to look a lot more and more like Facebook with campaign budget optimization. Don't worry about your budgets anymore. We can shift them between campaigns. Don't worry about location targeting. We've already saw that change. That's one we need to talk about is the location in to now it's in or recently in or something like that, right? There was that one change on location settings that popped up. I want to say it was August. I feel like there was one.
Okay.
Time is weird in 2020, right? But you're seeing it.
Well,
right?
I think there's also I think Marketing the Clock actually referenced some of the potential eliminations of enhanced text ads as well, starting to they're seeing some reprioritization from Google on that DSLs are going to be the course here, the dynamic search ads. I'm sorry. It's a very dark space that you're painting there, sir.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. That's the state of the world, and either the options are basically either Microsoft actually emerges as a viable alternative and forces back this anti-competitive behavior, a court or an antitrust organization rules that Google is in fact the monopoly that we all know that it is, and something happens there, or we just continue down this path. And I mean,
and take our medicine.
It's basic. Well, I mean, it's more like a auto-injected IV drip, but sure. It's not even like taking the medicine at some point, right? At some point, it's not even like
it's like the farm. It's like the big pharma company who,
or it's GMO corn syrup.
Selling the drug is telling you that this is the drug you need.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like a doctor telling you to take
not even the doctor.
This is the Sacker
It's not
family.
the doctor.
Yeah, this is the Sacker family. Like, let's be real. This is like the Matrix when you see that scene where Neo gets emerged out of a little battery pack.
Yep,
that's what this is. Google's the machine.
I told you, Skynet, Matrix.
To Sam's point with the audience thing, I agree with him. I think that's exactly where Google is going, and I agree with the reason is because that allows you to more exactly what he said. Hey, just trust us. Give us your money. We know all about these people, right? For me, there's a level of what I started with, which is, man, you're a paid search company, which is the keyword and the power of the keyword. And you're actually starting to move away from that, which is you're moving away from what's awesome. You're moving away from like the best way to market, in my opinion, ever. A person giving their individual timely intent, right? And so I think there are like just big industry ramifications that honestly concern me as a paid search marketer as they shift to that, because you're not Facebook, you're Google, you're a search engine. That's phenomenal. You can do so much awesome things with personal intent with a search engine that Facebook can't. Great, own it. Stop this charge into automation with no regard to advertisers' opinions on data.
I mean, I honestly believe though that Google doesn't think they're leaving paid search behind. I think they think that they are just
the evolution of it,
building they're building their moat, and they think, in my mind, Google thinks that paid searchers don't know how to do paid search marketing, which is crazy. But they think that they are going to take the best of both worlds, right? You're going to take the best of this hyper-personalized intent, and you're going to match it with Google's, machine learning algorithms, and we're going to take care of all of this, and we're going to use it to build a moat that no one can ever overcome because no one gets the data. And without the data, you can't ever reverse engineer, right? You can't build the algorithm again.
Yeah, they're putting it in the black box, absolutely.
You're going down a Criteo path, and if you look at Criteo's stock price, it doesn't end well because someone else always figures it out. And this is something that shorted Criteo, and I was very happy about it.
So which data do we have rights to? And I think that is one of the biggest things that will be decided. And I think it needs to be decided soon.
It needs to be. Yes, because this is, and you need some real authority behind it. Like, no more $5 billion fines. Like, you want to make it hurt, you got to make it hurt, and it's got to really hurt. So like 60 billion, that'll do it.
But you're talking congressional oversight. You're talking about spaces in which
Congress can oversee Google. You can't put Congress in charge of Google because
it's the interwebs. They understand this, don't they?
Right. No, I think you almost need like some type of like international body. You need some group that is technologically savvy. You need somebody that actually speaks tech, somebody that knows tech, somebody that knows the dirty secrets. Because the dirty secret of regulation is that it's always 3 steps behind and 4 days late. It's always reactive. It's not proactive. You need somebody you need something. I mean, and I think the best regulation you can possibly get is competition. Because then you have people that are equally smart with similar incentives working towards the same overall objective, and you keep each other honest, right? That's the whole point. Like, I think a search engine from Apple is a certainty at some point. I think that would be good. I think Microsoft getting bigger would be fantastic because they've made a great tool. I think Google has phenomenal tech. I think they've done phenomenal things with machine learning. I think they've done unprecedented things in terms of parsing and understanding search intent, especially on the organic side. I think the way that they evolve search features is revolutionary. It's brilliant. But you need everybody at the pool, right? You need everybody keeping each other honest. Otherwise, Google just acts like a king.
Yeah,
when you think you're a king, you don't think anybody can come. You think you can do whatever you want. And we've seen from monarchs past, and if you Google, with all their access to basically all of human knowledge, should know how this story ends for the wannabe monarch. And spoiler alert, it doesn't end with you staying monarch.
No, absolutely.
Right?
Empires crumble.
Yeah, I was going to say, just open up the Hamilton thing. Oceans rise, empires fall. Google's been with us through it all.
Oh, boy.
I love Hamilton.
I never thought we'd end with a Hamilton reference on the show, but hey, there's Sam with a hat trick there.
It's the creative genius of our time. Genius of our time.
All right. Well, we appreciate both of your insights here. I really do appreciate the time digging into this. This is an ethos issue. This is a data ownership issue. It's not just it's not a significant. It's not an insignificant thing. It's a very significant thing, and we'll just springboard off of what they said. It's not a threshold. You can't apply this globally. You have to give the users of this data the ability to opt out and be able to see this. we just never had that control ever from Google, and it's high time to get that. I just don't know if we're going to see that that curtain call, you know?
No, I don't think we will. I mean, I think Kirk was 100% right that this is not about a report. It's not about words on a page. It's about what's the relationship between Google, its advertisers, and its partners. It's about who owns what data. It's about what companies are allowed to charge you for and take money for. It's about how the internet actually how the digital advertising system fundamentally operates. This is just it's a small little battle in a much larger war. And anybody that thinks it's just about a report is, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no, this is definitely.
Come on, Kirk, you were the positive one here, man.
Kirk, come on. I'm supposed to be doing it. I didn't have the black shirt.
So we're all just getting sucked into the void now. Thanks a lot, Sam. Appreciate it.
I mean, it's no problem. I'm here to help.
It's right in the deal. All right. So anything that we can promote for you, gentlemen, either companies right now?
Yeah. I get to go first on this one? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
So Warschawski is a full-service integrated advertising agency. We specialize in, we do a lot of B2B, we do a lot of B2C, but we specialize in relatively complex clients. We've been around for about 23 years. We do a lot of digital work. We do a lot of B2B lead gen. You can find us at warschawski.com. That's warschawski.com. We try to leave every consonant, make sure they all had a chance to get in the party. And if you want to join the conversation on Twitter, it's at DigitalSamIM.
Very good. Kirk, over to you. Anything that we can promote for ZATOs or yourself? ZATO.
You can check us out. ZATOmarketing.com. I'm PPC Kirk pretty much on all social channels. But yeah, we focus on Google ads, Microsoft ads, primarily e-commerce, do a lot with shopping. We also manage just shopping ads for some brands if they want their current paid search agency to have a little bit of extra specific focus with shopping ads. We can come along and do that. We do that well, yeah. And then I would point you to that article I noted on Search Engine Journal, because I think it honestly is probably one of the most important ones I've written in the last few years, because it does talk about this idea of data. What do we need to know about data, the rights of data? And let's have that conversation soon, because I think that window is closing, because Facebook and Google and all the platforms, definitely it's to their advantage that we don't have that conversation and figure out what data we have rights to, because then they get to decide. So check it out. Absolutely.
Well, we certainly want to make sure everybody follows you guys on social. Your PPC Kirk and Digital Sam IM. Thank you, gentlemen, for participating and sharing this information. I wish we had a little bit better horizon to look at, but hopefully with some of the participation here and marketers getting involved, and to the degree of even a consortium where everybody can help in the guidance of this, so it's not just a monster that's got a conflict of interest at its heart. Hopefully we can kind of break that shell and even the playing field. So any final thoughts for our digital marketing audience today, gents? Oh, should we all just go to TikTok?
I have never been on TikTok ever. I have confessed.
I mean, I like to watch little videos. They seem fun. I'm old and
I watch TikTok when it's shared on Twitter.
Well, as soon as Microsoft buys TikTok, right, then we should all just flood there.
I mean, I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I really do. I think there's definitely a role that marketers have to play, right? We have a lot of channels that are emerging. There's a lot of new ways that content's being created. There's a lot of new ways content's being shared. And, as we try to navigate this new situation, it becomes all the more important for marketers to be on top of things and to really be smart and to have access to data and to make good decisions. So just because Google doesn't want us to do that doesn't mean that we should do that. It doesn't mean that's not our proper role. It just means we have to fight for what we want, and we have to, stand up to them and do the best we can. And if they don't budge, then we have to go other places.
Yep. The money makes decisions. Take your money elsewhere, and miraculously things change, right?
Yeah, cash plays.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today, and we certainly want to have you come back on the show, maybe with better insight. I should say better.
News.
Happy news.
Happy news?
All right, gents. Thanks so much.
And
we
news show.
I don't know if we can. Not. I'm not allowed to in COVID times, right? Anyway, thanks so much, guys, and keep up the fight, and keep on bringing the light and awareness to this issue, because we started talking about this back in February when we were talking about the partner program and how much of a crap show that was, and this is just another. And they postponed that until next June, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I forgot about that. Gosh.
Sorry.
I'm still on that one.
We're supposed to end on a happy note, and you're bringing that up, Aaron.
Yeah. So tune into the other episodes we had about that, because literally they're forcing advertisers to have 50% of their accounts Google certified, and you got to take their advice or they basically decertify you. You lose the badge. So go over to that petition for marketers that are looking for 500 signatures. Do that. Isn't there another petition to have a non-Google certified badge as well?
Go follow Greg Finn and you'll find the petitions.
Yes. Yeah, follow Greg Finn.
He's here with us in spirit, obviously. All right, so yeah, so it's even darker than we painted, guys. Fantastic. All right, don't forget to like and subscribe to Edge of the Web on YouTube, and if you're feeling up to us, please give us a review on iTunes. We certainly appreciate that as well. Thanks to our sponsors, Site Strategist and Ahrefs as well, for their continued sponsorship. Be sure to check out all the must-see videos and much more of the insider information over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. I think we're going to be talking to Paul Shapiro next week, hopefully, and we're also we're lining up a number of additional interviews here in the next months. If we haven't contacted you, let us know that you'd like to be on the show. Boy, I just opened it up for everybody. So, all right, we're going to have it filled up for next year. From all of us over at Site Strategist and Edge of the Web, stay safe, be well, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.